I actually kind of liked the Acolyte episode 7, so let me review it in 2 minutes or less starting right now. So if you've been keeping up with the show, then you know that this episode was coming where we had to revisit episode 3, but from the Jedi perspective. And I was a little worried because episode 3 is by far the worst episode of the season, maybe even the worst episode of Star Wars television ever. But this episode worked because it follows the Jedi perspective for most of it, and these Jedi are just much more interesting, complex characters than the witches or May and Osha as children. We do still get the normal clunky dialogue in the show, and most notably, I kept hearing this bit where Sol was like, they don't treat these children like children, they treat them like adults, yada yada yada. But every time we saw him seeing them with the children, they were treating the children like children, so it was just really odd. There was also a really good fight scene at the end of this between Cal Naka and then Torben and Sol. Sadly, there was no tension in this fight scene because you knew that all three of those characters were gonna make it through to the end, and it does speak to just the poor structure of this show and that its non-linearity has lent to moments like these that are filmed epically falling flat in terms of actual emotional feelings from the viewers because you know that all these characters are gonna be fine. But by far, my favorite part of this episode was the scene where Torben and Mother Anasea were communicating through the Force because she was invading his mind. And that scene was just really interesting in terms of its filmmaking and in terms of what we learned about both of those characters and just the power of the Force within this show. And it kind of made this episode for me and set a tone where it locked me in a lot more because I was like, oh wait, this is a really good scene. I'm gonna end the time, but please just don't let this all make you think that I'm trying to say that this is the best episode of television ever or something like that. No, it's still The Acolyte, except maybe this is just a 3-star episode rather than a 2 or 2.5 star episode. It's actually okay and watchable in my opinion, and that's still an improvement over the majority of episodes in this show, sadly. You know, I wish that this show was a lot better than it was, and I'm just glad that we're getting an okay episode towards the end. But what about all of you? What did you think of episode 7 of The Acolyte? I want to hear your thoughts, so please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to start a discussion. I'll see you all in the next review. Take care.